Welcome to Haxby Shed. How many videos can you make about the same Harrison vertical milling head? Well, it turns out to be at least 5. Now the backstory on this is, I got it about 5 or 6 months ago. My policy was, just clean it out, get it working, try it, see how it performs. Anyway, so I cleaned it out. It was pouring oil out of the back here. Now there's 2 oil chambers on this, one in the rear, one in the front. They are separate. There's not a lot of oil in, it's just a dip really. But the way this is constructed, there's a vertical spindle, a horizontal spindle, a couple of gears, and then this INT30 stub shaft here. And I took it apart, I changed the seal which separates this front half from the back half to make sure no oil could be passing from the front to the back and then out of here. I also made a groove around this swivel, the centre swivel, and put in an O-ring. Well, that's worked fine, absolutely, and I suppose there's no oil coming from the front to the back now, but it is still pouring out of here, which is crazy. There's a spinner on there. There it is. I made a gasket for it and I don't think it's leaking around the spinner on the inside. So the next step is to address this plate, sealing plate it's called, and there's an O-ring groove all the way around the outside there. I don't think that's leaking, but what I have noticed is this plate is not in right. Somebody's had a go at this head at some point to repair it, fix it, maintain it, mess it up basically. I'll show you, but there's a screw just there, a set screw where my finger is, and it just locks this plate. Now it's sitting in front of the plate. It shouldn't be like that. It should be on the side of the plate. And when I measure the depth here, so that distance and that distance over there, it's about 30 millimeters at one side and 32 at the other. Now I've done a bit of work with a scale drawing off the manual, and I figured out that this should be inset about 25 millimeters. So it's something like 5 to 7 millimeters pushed too far in. I'll show you the drawing, how I worked that out. It doesn't tell you in the manual, but you can figure it out. Okay, this is a cross section. This is the horizontal spindle, as I called it just then. This is the INT30 stub shaft, as I called it. Bearings on the end here. The 2 gears, they're 1-to-1. All they do is they drive up from there to there, so you get more height from the head to the table. This is the spinner, as I called it, and then this is the sealing plate here. There's a groove there and the O-ring runs right round it. Okay, so there's a couple of ways to figure out how far this should be pushed in, this sealing plate here. I know that's 17 millimeters here, so simply by scaling it over here, if that's 17 millimeters, which is represented by 13, and this distance is 18.5 millimeters on the drawing, represents 24 millimeters. The other way to figure it out is on the drawing, the back edge of this sealing plate lines up with the front edge of this casting here, which is used to clamp the head onto the machine. So, you know, I reckon it's 24 millimeters it should be coming in here. Let's go and look at it on the head itself. So first of all, the screw I was talking about, that screw there is supposed to come onto the edge of this. And you can't tell, I don't suppose, but I can. That's in a lot deeper here than it is over here. Turns out to be about 2 millimeters. And then from that drawing we know that the plate front face, where I'm pointing to, should correspond to that edge there. And when I measure it, that's 25 millimeters. And the other thing to bear in mind, the vertical head clamps on this face here. This collar sticks out around the spindle, this cover, and this cover stands out 23.5 millimeters. So, you know, 24 would be a bit tight, 25 would seem about right. So I'm going to aim for that sealing plate being recessed by 25 millimeters. And then back over to the head. This plate therefore has to come out. There's 3 tapped holes, quarter UNC, I think the intention is that a puller goes on there. I need to rig up a puller. I've done a bit of work already. I'll show you what I've done. Well, the lesson here is never throw anything away, because, you know, 1 minute these are kitchen cupboard brackets and now they're puller fixings. I'm not expecting this to be very tight, but we'll see. It'll be awkward to get on, of course. Yep. Hey, it is coming. There we go. It's getting a bit tipped. I'm going to have to tap this side to bring this one out. Or something like that. Oh, there we go. Oh, there we go. Not very elegant, but it is working. It's quite tight. Well, you know, it's offering a bit of resistance. Oh my goodness me, look at that. I'll show you. Not great, look. What's that all about? Yeah, and of course the seal is as hard as anything. There is a kind of labyrinth there, well, it's at least a couple of grooves anyway. Right, what does this do? Hey! Right, we'll check that bearing on the end of there as well. I think it's alright, it's a needle. Looks alright. There's quite a lot of sludge in here, but we knew that was likely because there was sludge in the front part and everywhere else. But look, there's a bit of seal. There. I mean, we're lucky really that the person who serviced this, you know, was a real expert. Now the oil just sits here, look. And then you can see the sight glass there just peeping through there. So the oil runs to about that level there. In fact, it runs to just under, hold on, when this is in place, it runs to just there. Well, this seal is very hard. It's only chewed up in one place. Let's have a look. Right, okay, yeah, it's very hard. Now then, this locking screw, where's it supposed to go? Because there's a seal all the way around. I'm just looking for, I mean, it does go in that groove, so it must therefore have to squeeze on the seal then. There's a few marks where it's been round the edge, look, there. Yes. Not a great design. There's a ridge on the inside and you push the plate in and it comes up against that ridge. That's as far as it goes. And when I measure that, it's 33 at this side and 29 at this side. So I think that's what they've done. They've just pushed it in as far as it will go until it hits this ridge, if you can see there, look. Well, I don't think that's the intention. This is the ridge I'm talking about. Maybe you couldn't see before, that one there. I've had a good look at this and this surface is all fine. I've checked the bearing, I'm happy with that as well. There's a bit of movement here, that's what you'd expect at that sort of distance anyway. So that's staying as it is. Now, talking about the seal, if you're looking for one of these, it's 122 millimeters internal diameter, near enough. It's about 3.5 millimeters across. It sits in a groove on the edge of that sealing plate, which is 4 millimeters wide, and it's 2.8 millimeters deep. Now I don't have any 3.5 millimeter cord. I've put in an inquiry to Simply Bearings. They're going to check for me, but the thing is, when you're buying a seal this size, you can easily spend £10, whereas you just get the cord and glue the ends together with a bit of super glue. You might get away with, oh, who knows, you know, £3, something like that. Anyway, I'll get something ordered. Look at this. This is the ridge we talked about here. But look at this casting part here. If you push that sealing plate all the way into that ridge, the seal is going to come off that edge there. Well, it's about a week since I looked at this. I've been away. So we saw that that plate went in there, the so-called sealing plate, which doesn't very well. And it was pushed back too far, something like 7mm too far. And I worked out that that reduces the oil capacity here by something like 26%. Now, I'm not saying it makes any real difference, practically speaking. I'm just saying. Now, this is held in place with a screw that goes in there, as well as the O-ring that goes in there as well. With a single screw, of course, it can do this, it can do this, well, at least this. So I'm going to look at putting a screw at the other side as well. And at least that means it would only do this, it wouldn't do this as well. Ideally I'd put a screw at the bottom as well, but with this big web in the way, I don't think I can do that. Now the difficulty is holding this, such a funny shape, but I have a plan and I'll show you. I think if you've followed Haxby Shed for a while, you expect to see unusual setups, and I'm hoping this one won't disappoint you. So the idea is to sight off this, take it round 180 and drill on this side. So then it should give me equal height on both sides. The position this way isn't so important. It is a bit scary, this is 35 kilos, and if it fell off, well, I don't like to think about it. I'd like to put a strap around here and suspend it from above as a safety strap, but I just haven't got anything up there to sort of fasten it to. Now it's got to come off again to be sighted up. I've got to get this dead center with this spindle. So we'll do that next. Yeah, I think that's going to work, isn't it? Now for this part here, I'll see. I'll just have to see. It's just above there. I might just get a screw in there. I may have to mill a bit of this away. Don't know yet. I will if I can. When I made this indexing base, I put a Morse Taper 3 socket in the centre. Never sure what I was going to use it for, and today I'm using it for the first time. I've dropped in a Morse Taper 3 centre to give me a centre point, put a drill in, and I can line up the point of the drill with the point of the centre. So that's telling me that this is correct in this dimension. X, I suppose, side to side. Now it's probably not to within 1 thou, but it's certainly within 5. And that's good enough for what we're trying to do here. It's a bit of a game getting this lined up because this head is such an irregular shape, but this is a 5mm drill, which is tapping drill for 1/4 UNC, and I think I've got it. I don't see any deflection on that. I mean, would it be a bit comical to put a gauge on it, see if it deflects? Probably. And then that can swing round. Make sure I clear this. I think I could just drill into there, look, I'm going to have a go at that. If I can get in with a centre drill, that is. Yeah, I think I will have a go. And then if I lock that there, that should be it. I mean, it's this dimension I'm more concerned about than anything else. We'll start by putting a flat on here using an end mill. It's a 5/16, so an 8mm. Centre drill. Right. Ooh. Just need to make sure I don't tip it over this way because all the swarf will go into the gears, so we'll just keep it this way till it's cleaned out. Phew! So there's one new hole, there's the other, and I've got new grub screws, 1/2 inch long, 1/4 UNC, I need to put dog points on them because at the moment they're flat point. I'm just clearing things away, but whilst this indexing base is on the table, it gives me an opportunity to run this Morse Taper 3 reamer through it. Now I bought this reamer and this roughing out reamer as a set off eBay, and it wasn't expensive. I can't remember how much it was, but I was surprised how cheap. But I bought it to work on the tailstock because the Morse Taper 3 and the quill on the tailstock is a bit rough inside, but I haven't got round to that yet. But I can run it into here, and it's pretty good actually. I just machined this on the lathe, this Morse Taper 3. Now running this in, I've given it a few turns already, and it's shaving it all the way along, so I'm quite pleased with that. I think that's good enough. I just took the opportunity whilst it was there. My intention here is to tap this but not all the way through and leave some of the taper at the bottom of the threaded part, and hopefully the grub screw, as it comes into the hole, just as the peg is emerging inside, it will be just beginning to bind up, which is what I want, and that in effect will give me a kind of locking effect, stop me winding the thing in too far. That's the idea anyway. Right then, next issue. This disc has two oil grooves in it, there and there. Now how is that supposed to work? Because there's no drain on those. So if we've got that spinner cup in there and the oil runs into those grooves, it doesn't drain anywhere. So I'm going to drill a couple of drains in this, drill down at angles and then drill across to intercept the galleries that I've just drilled in. That's the idea. I've got this long extension rod which should allow me to get down at a decent angle like that. I've drilled two holes at an angle there, and then I'll drill across here to intercept those, and that will give me my drain. I've got a depth set on this. Whether this will make the slightest bit of difference, I don't know, but it's worth a try. It's better than no drain at all, isn't it? When I measured across the depth of this groove properly, I said 122 millimeters earlier, but actually it's 121. And I bought a seal 121 by 3.5, and it cost me about £3.50. Now if you want that in euros, add 16%. If you want it in US dollars, add 31%, because actually the pound's climbing quite strongly against the US dollar. And just after Brexit, I think it was $1.15 to the pound. Now it's 1.31, but unfortunately not for good reasons. And the reason that it is going up so high is that American investors, or people who invest in dollars, are betting that our inflation will stay high for a long time. And government borrowing rate now for a government 2-year bond is 5.2%, which means that people don't think the UK is a very safe bet. They think inflation is going to stay high, interest rates are going to stay high. That's just a little side discussion, but anyway, add 31% for dollars. Like I think I said earlier, you've got to be careful buying these seals, because I did go to a company to get a quote, and they said, oh, well, it's £8.50 for two, and then there's VAT, and then there's carriage, so you're well over £10, when in fact I could buy one for £3.50. And if you're money conscious like me, well, that's good news. Now, I want to test this in here, because I want to measure how far this gear sticks out from this face, because in doing so, let's just make sure you're actually in shot. No, you're not. So that gear in there, I want to measure from this back face to this front face of the machine when this is screwed up tight, because I want to see where this gear is lining up with the other gear that sits above it. Comprende? There we go. So it's just a simple measurement now with this off like this. Now, if this gear is offset from the one above, there is absolutely nothing I can do about it. I'm just interested to know. So the back of that gear to that face is 49 millimeters. So what I'm saying is, from there to there, we're hoping for 49 millimeters. And guess what? It's 49 millimeters. So that's spot on. They align perfectly. Just before I put this together then, some people suggested blue Hylamar. So I invested in some. I'll put it round the O-ring. It's looking all right. Oh, that's gone in too far. That's about all right. Need to ease this side out a couple of mil. I can look through the hole where the screw's going so I can see if it's lining up. Come on, yeah, that's it. Well, it took quite a bit of messing to get that right. I'm happy with it now that each screw is in that groove. This stand is so useful. So top off, oil in, and then we can try it on the mill. ISO 220. Now it doesn't take much. I drained it off with this cup and it barely filled it, so I needed to put about 50 millilitres of oil into this back gearbox here. So up to about there, I would say. Now the head's been on a while. I've been running it for half an hour or so. The oil level here has not gone down. I've not got oil pouring down here like I had before. So, you know, it's only a short test, but I think that's fixed. So let's give it some work to do. This beastie, I think I've shown you before, it's 100 millimeters across, the 6 inserts, it's on a 32 millimeter drive spigot. Now a couple of things about it, it's missing one insert. I did a bit of research and I found that they were Mitsubishi MP9130M and they're RPMT. So the R means round, the P means 11-degree rake. And I looked for some, they're quite expensive. On eBay you could probably get a pack of 10 genuine inserts for about £50. But I'm only one short, so in fact I've bought a genuine fake, which cost me £2.50 delivered, something like that. So I'm going to use that to start with. When I'm next at the Auto Jumble, sometimes you get people selling, you know, small boxes of inserts, and you can buy them sometimes really cheaply. So I'm going to try with this, and then if it's running fine, you know, maybe in time I'll pick up some more inserts. Now, the next thing is I need to make a washer to go in there because there's a 16 millimeter cap head there that goes into there. So I need something to hold this on. So I'll go over to the lathe and we'll make something up. That's just to show the dimensions again. RPMT 12, MP9130 Mitsubishi, 12 millimeters across there with an 11-degree rake. Now although they look indexed, where's it gone? I've lost it. There. Although they look indexed, because they've got these flats on here, is that focusing? Yes. In fact, I found that they're not indexed in this cutter holder. You can just turn them to any position. It's not sitting quite right yet. I've had some bad experiences with parting tools recently, so we'll try this. That blade is going to hit the wood, I've realised. Oh, there we go. Never mind. Should do, I think. That is set lower than these faces here, so I think it'll be okay. I don't know how this is going to go. I've touched off, I've put on about an 1/8 thou cut, so 0.2 of a millimetre, and it's set to run at 100 RPM. Right, I think what's happening here is that cheap insert that I put in is just a little bit bigger than the rest. I guess that shows you need to put these things in sets. And of course my table is playing up because the table nuts had it, so I'm going to have to get that done soon, that job. Look at the jump on it. So this is going to be a one-off demonstration. But I think it shows the machine can handle it if I can just get that table nut sorted out. Something wrong here. Look, it's cutting on the back edge now. I wouldn't expect that. I don't know what I've done wrong. Something, obviously. Well, that test has just shown us that the head is not vertical. Now there's a taper pin here. Goes in there, knock it in. Should get that head completely vertical, like an index. But when I look at the scale above, the 0 and the mark on this back casting don't line up. It's somewhere like 1/3 of a degree out. So this taper pin goes into a bush. Now the bush is there so that you can get these T-slotted bolts out through that hole. But you can see there's a mark there. There's a mark on that. Now those two have to be lined up. Now I've got them slightly offset. I'm hoping that's what the problem is. But I'm going to have to do some tests to find out if this head's really vertical. Just a postscript on that last comment then. I took the taper pin out. I loosened off the head. I put a plain shanked adapter in here and put a clock on it. And I just tapped this to get it absolutely right at 90 vertical, and then I found that the line scribed up at the top lines up perfectly on the scale with 0. So what that tells me is you can't just bash that taper pin in and expect it to pull it absolutely to 90. And after a bit more investigation, this is held in with a little grub screw here. It was full of dirt, I couldn't see. It certainly wasn't tight. And when I checked this taper pin, it's bent. I think it's the original pin. I'll just zoom in and show you so you can see, but they've bent it and then they've ground the lump off it that was bent. So I need to make a new one of those at some stage. Trying to work out what the taper in is going to be difficult. I don't think it's standard. Anyway, I'll leave that to another day. So there's the bush with the locating hole for the grub screw. Here's the taper pin. All this area here has been ground off. If you try it with a rule along the edge, the pin's bent. So that'll be a job one day to make another one of those.